Hi everyone, this is Luxthos, and today I want to bring you another Diablo 4 Necromancer video guide. So I've received a lot of questions regarding this build, and I wanted to go ahead and do a little video guide, even though it's not fully finished. I didn't get all the pieces that I wanted. My gear is actually in a terrible state, but I've been having so much fun with this, and I wanted to share it with you. So we're going to go over the gear, the Book of the Dead, the ability and the skill tree, and a little glance at the Paragon board. But if you have any additional question, make sure that you post it in the comment section down below. At the same time, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these videos. And also, there's going to be in the description a link to the build with all of the information that you are going to need. So before we go into a key, I'm going to explain the build real quick and how does it work. So this is a regular Sever build, but it uses damage over time, which is really weird because normally these two things don't even scale from the same source. So damage over time doesn't critical strike. So that means that critical strike and critical strike damage doesn't really work for damage over time. But it still works really, really well. And it gives you like a wide array of damage opportunity. And it feels just really good. So I need to test it out a little bit more in endgame. I'm missing the boots, the Sever boots right now, which are going to be really, really nice. And yeah, I'm missing a couple pieces to put it all together. But so far, it's really, really cool. And I might have a couple of ideas to maybe change it or maybe improve it, which we're going to cover maybe in a later video, or I'll make sure to update the guide if I find anything new. But here's the current state of the build. Let's go into it. So for the skill tree, I'm using Reap. Obviously, Reap is really nice. When you run out of resources, it allows you to, you know, get a little bit of resources back, because I'm not using any resources generation on my rings, right? I'm not using Umbral because it's completely useless on single target, which is the only time that you'll really, really, really need it. Being able to form the corpse every 4 seconds is really neat, because you can just swoop once and then you're going to be able to tendril, or in this case, we're going to be automatic tendrilling. That's a new word. We're going to be casting the automatic tendril from one of our gem, and it's just really nice. It just gives you great control over the battlefield, and I love it. We're obviously going to put 5 point into Sever, and we're going to get the Sever after 3 cast. We're going to get Hued Flesh for that increase corpse generation. We're going to go with Blood Mist, and we're going to go with the corpse generation Blood Mist, which is really, really neat. So this is going to have a little bit of Infinimus kind of play style, but you're still going to have Sever to dish out some burst damage, which is really fun. As much point as you can in Corpse Explosion and into Blighted Corpse Explosion, obviously, for that sweet damage. Grim Harvest and Fueled by Death are very, very, very good. We're going to have 2 points in Death's Embrace. We're going to have 3 point in Amplify Damage, which just got recently buffed, so that's going to be neat. We have 1 point in Decrepify, and all the way into the cooldown reduction, Decrepify here. Very, very nice. We're going to have Corpse Tendril, and we're going to go all the way to the Blood Orb, because we need the Blood Orb glyph in order to fortify us. So we need a way to generate Blood Orb, and because we're so locked on Legendary Aspect, I really, really wanted to have this one here for the Blood Orb. Extra vulnerability would have been nice, but we already have it from Sever. It's kind of good enough with the playstyle that we're going with. You'll see it works out pretty well. We have 1 point in Reaper's Pursuit for just to unlock the rest. The movement speed is nice, but we don't have enough points to put more in here. 1 point just for the stun, and then we put 3 in Gloom, which is insane. Every single point that you put in here gives you 2% increased shadow damage, and that is multiplied by 3, right? So every point in here gives you massive, massive damage, 6% increased damage. So if you get a neck that has +2 on it, that's 12% damage just from that. So that's really, really good for Gloom. And then 3 points into Terror as well. Gives us really good damage when we're able to CC things. So it doesn't help us too much for bosses, but otherwise pretty neat. Standalone, because we don't have any minion for that sweet damage reduction. And Memento Mori for the additional sacrifice. We're going to go with Bone Storm here all the way down. And obviously we're going to go with Shadowblight for that sweet damage. For the Book of the Dead, we're going to sacrifice the Reaper for the additional shadow damage. We're going to sacrifice the Cold Mages for the increased vulnerable damage. And we're going to sacrifice the Iron Golem for the 30% additional critical strike damage. So this is not going to apply to damage over time from Corpse Explosion, but it will apply to Sever, and it will apply to Shadowblight proc, which are doing massive amount of damage, okay? I'm going to go over my gear. It is absolutely horrible. I'm warning you, mostly because I've not been able to fix my accessories because I've been putting my gem into them, and I'm currently in the process of finding better ones to upgrade them. But I'm going to talk to you about what I would prefer. So for my helm right now, I'm using Disobedience. And on the helm, my ideal helm would have maximum life, cooldown reduction. I would have most likely lucky hit with barrier. That would be really nice. And total armor. So I would get rid of the willpower and the rank to decrepify. I would replace those by total armor and lucky hit. Or the lucky hit can be anything else. The lucky hit isn't necessarily super necessary. It's just really nice to proc decrepify more to be able to get more Bone Storm, which is really, really neat. So the lucky hit barrier isn't necessarily mandatory, but I think I would enjoy it, especially with some future modification that I might make. But for now, at least get cooldown reduction, maximum life, and armor. That's going to be really, really good. For your chest, same thing, maximum life, very, very nice. Any kind of damage reduction, any kind of armor. So total armor, damage reduction from distant, from close, pure damage reduction, all that good stuff. Any kind of damage reduction you can on your chest with the armor, with the HP, right? So armor, HP, and then 2 damage reduction node. And right now I have the Bone Storm legendary on there to allow me to get some sweet barrier. For my glove right now, we got +3 severs, so this could be better. I got attack speed, lucky hit, and critical strike chance. On this, I have the tendrils, which you can see aren't even perfect, so that's pretty nice. I could have an upgrade here. I think I would replace the attack speed with something else. So I'll have to see what I want to replace it with, but I think I would replace the attack speed here. I'll give a little bit more info on the page for the build guide, but these aren't technically perfect. I think I would go with lucky hit chance to get resources back. I think that's what I would do. Increased chance of getting resources. Lucky hit would be really, really good. Then everything that we're planning with lucky hit would also increase, give me a little bit more resources for those severs. So that would be really, really good. For the legs right here, I got a pair of legs in my bank that I need to replace these with, but I'm still waiting on a couple pieces to do the shifting. But I will go with, I think, plus rank, +3 to Corpse Explosion, +3 to Blood Mist, which will reduce the cooldown, maximum life, and then any form of damage reduction. So pure damage reduction, damage to close, damage to distant, damage to shadow as well. That would be really, really good. So again, Blood Mist, Corpse Explosion, maximum life, and then the third stat can be any form of damage reduction. That's really good. The legendary, we're not going to be using barrier though, because on my boots right now, I have Blood Mist. When I do get the unique boots for Sever, those are going to give me an additional dot every time I Sever, which is going to be insane. They're going to give me essence cost reduction, more lucky hit with shadow skills, which I have 8 million of, and also damage reduction with shadow afflicted units. So as soon as I can, I'm kicking out these boots. I don't need the plus rank on Corpse Tendrils. I don't need it because we have a gem casting this every 3 seconds. So we don't need these boots, but as soon as I get the unique boots, then I'll shift Blood Mist to the helm, and then I'll move Disobedience to the legs. Okay? Just wanted to point that out. So for the boots, right now, until you find the unique, you can go with anything else. Movement speed, dodge chance, intelligence, anything you want on there. Essence cost reduction is really nice. For the weapon, I'm currently using a 2-handed sword. So this is really, really nice. The critical strike damage helps with Sever and with Shadowblight. I like intelligence on there, and I like damage to enemy afflicted by shadow damage over time. That's really nice. The damage over time on there, I don't want, and the damage to crowd control enemy, I don't want. I would instead prefer damage to vulnerable and critical strike damage, right? Those would be better, or even close enemy. So in an ideal world, I would have intelligence, shadow damage over time, afflicted enemy, sorry, not the damage over time itself, but damage to enemy afflicted by shadow damage over time. So intelligence, that, vulnerable, and then the last one would either be close damage or critical strike damage. Those two would be really, really good, I think. There's another alternative of this build, which I'm currently looking into with a 1-ender and an off-end. We would lose a little bit of damage from Shadowblight, but we would have an additional Lego, which could be interesting, maybe to extend the duration of Bone Storm. I'm still testing this out, but for now, the 2-ender is nice, because it gives us that 240% damage increase when we get a perfect one. That's going to be really, really good. I'm currently using critical strike damage to vulnerable enemy. This build is so versatile. You could honestly put critical strike to slow target as well, which I actually think I will be swapping it to. I just don't have enough gem to cover all my gear right now, but I think damage to slow would be really, really good. Obviously, damage to slow, we'll have that permanently with Decrepify. So that could be interesting. You could also use damage over time, but I kind of like having most of my gear focusing on Sever and Shadowblight tick damage. And then the Shadow over time is endoed a little bit more with the Paragon and one of the Heart that we're using. For my neck, right now I'm using +2 Gloom, which is insane. And then you can put like any amount of damage reduction on there. I would love to have Darkness skills a little bit higher. That would be great. Plus the Gloom. And then the 2 additional stats could be cooldown reduction and movement speed, or cooldown reduction and a damage reduction ability. That would be a really, really good neck. Obviously, we put Shadowblight on there for that 60%, stacking 5-time damage. Crazy. And as the first heart here, we're using the automated, so the Vicious Heart, which is the automated Corpse Explosion. This is insane. It will trigger a Corpse Explosion every second. It will use Corpse Tendril. Actually, in first priority, it will try to Tendril. So it will Tendril every 3 seconds, and then it will attempt a Corpse Explosion after that every second. If you're using a minion build, it will also attempt to raise your skeleton. It will not use it if you have max amount of skelly, but if they're dead, it will attempt to res them too. This heart is insane, okay? You do get damage reduction from it, but it's really, really not the end of the world. It's still a absolutely crazy. Somebody just found my boots in the guild chat. You sneaky. So this gem is going to be really, really good. You're going to get crazy value out of this crazy automated play. Absolutely amazing. For my ring, I'm currently using Blood Mist, Trail, and Darkness Bone Storm, which is really, really good. They give you additional shadow damage over time, which ramps up into more Shadow Blight, which also triggers everything else. It just works really, really well with the build, right? For the ring, I would like Shadow Damage, Critical Strike Chance, Vulnerable Damage, and Critical Strike Damage, or Lucky Hit, or Vitality. All of those would be great. But the top 3, Shadow Damage, Critical Strike Chance, Vulnerable Damage, and then the 4th stat, I don't think I want damage over time. I would prefer, I think, Lucky Hit Chance. Damage over time is fine, but I think Lucky Hit would work really, really well with the Decrepify and also some other stuff in the build. So that's pretty neat. So having the Decrepify trigger more often is pretty useful. So that would be quite fun. So same thing for the second ring. As you can see, my ring is completely horrible, but I added a gem to it. So for the other gem, we're going to go with the Decrepify, automatic Decrepify. So right now I got a +1. So one enemy at least near me will trigger it, which means I have perma Decrepify around me, which is insane. So that's kind of crazy. And then the other gem I'm using is the damage over time. Damage over time effect are increased by quite large amount. This is nice because as we're just moving through the map, especially for speed clearing, you're going to get crazy rotting damage. And then when you need a little bit of burst, you just spend all of your essences and you start doing some really, really fun damage. I'm definitely going to need to experiment a little bit more. Barber is quite nice, but it felt a little bit iffy with this build. There's other gem that you could use that would increase Sever damage more, maybe like the rotating one that gives you attack speed and resource. The burning one doesn't really feel good with this build, so this has been my favorite one. It just makes all of your shadow damage over time just melts and murder everything. Really, really fun. You can also get this one at 0 enemy, by the way. I have one. I just haven't placed it yet. I'm waiting to find a little bit more random resources. For the Paragon tree, we are using a very classic Sever build tree at the moment. I'm not done yet with the Paragon tree, but I'm going to put it in the link in the description down below. We're using Control for that additional CC damage. We are using as our first node Flesh Eater. This is going to be up almost 100% of the time. Absolutely insane. Just free 40% increased damage. And we're using Blood Drinker, which allows us to get that Fortify. And Blood Drinker in this position is increasing our damage to Elite, which is really, really good. Actually, not this node, but the other node, damage to Elite here for the magical node. On the next board, we are using Wither, so this is going to increase our damage over time. We're picking all of the damage over time as well. So even if we're playing a Sever build, we still have all of the damage over time node, which is really nice. And we're using Scourge up in here. So shadow damage over time being increased. Very, very nice. As we fall down here, we are currently using Scent of Death right here. So Scent of Death, and we're going to go all the way down to our glyph here, Darkness, which is going to increase our shadow damage by a lot. So this glyph can go all the way up to like 80%. If you get all of the willpower node here, this will go up to 80% shadow damage, which is insane. I'm missing massive modifier right now. And then we got another board, which is going to also have Exploit in it. and increase damage to while fortified. So I'm missing quite a lot of damage modifier right now, but I'm still able to slap. And I'm going to show that to you right now. So we're going to go do Mercy's Reach, one of my favorite key. Really nice. The really cool thing about this build is I pretty much don't care about any of the affix. Even resources burn, honestly. Even if you can't sever, you can literally go through the map by just using Bloodstorm, Blood Mist, a couple Reap every once in a while to cast a Sever, and everything still melts. It's really fun. So you don't really have any limitation to anything. It is really, really fun. We're just going to use a potion for XP here. Might as well. We're going to go in the dungeon. We're going to give you guys a little bit of a preview. I've been rambling for a long time here trying to explain the build, but I'm trying to give you guys as much information as I can, especially my thought process going forward. One of the other modification you could make to this build is instead of having the 2-ender, you could have a 1-ender and an off-end. And the off-end could even host the double curse damage modifier. So instead of having Reap, you could use Iron Maiden. And because you have free Decrepify, all you would have to do is Iron Maiden, and then you would be doing 50% more damage. But you would lose the modifier from Shadowblight. Still have to test it. And honestly, the playstyle without Reap doesn't feel that great. Reap is just so fun. I'm currently very squishy because, as you can see, my gear is... a lot of it is, like, not really optimized. I have, like... these have barely any health on them. They're super low item level. My rings are really, really bad. I just don't have, like, I'm using Sacred here. So you're going to see my life spike a lot, but I still feel pretty good about it. I have a lot of ways and tools to get out of problem. When you get attacked by the Quill Rat in here, it gets really, really, really annoying. They hurt a lot. You just got to kind of pull through it. You get that Bone Storm up and running, and then you're pretty much invincible. And then we're just going to run around and try to find some density here. Make sure that you hit everything that you encounter to get that... that cooldown reduction, always nice to have. Try to rotate between Bone Storm and Blood Mist. That's going to make you extremely tanky, right? We're going to get a Reap here. That's going to allow us to get a guaranteed Tendril, which I didn't cast, by the way. Automatically casted by my gem, which is fantastic. And we're just going to go hunt for that sweet density. This map has some crazy density once you go to the next area here. We're going to get 3 rare right there. We're going to go in there. We're going to Blood Mist. Try to get some Tendril. There we go. And then we're going to Bone Storm and just finish it all off. Your goal is to do as much damage as you can while staying safe, and then you go in whenever you have Bone Storm or Blood Mist. Blood Mist is used as a DPS cooldown here with the cooldown reduction. When I get +3 rank as well to Blood Mist, it's going to lower its cooldown by 2 to 3 seconds more, which is kind of crazy. It starts to give you a lot of density, right? Not density, but a lot of cooldown reduction and just pretty much immunity to damage. You just become unkillable. So let's run all the way to these juicy room. If you guys have ever done Mercy here, you know what I'm talking about. There's some insane room that are waiting for us that have crazy density in them. So trying to reduce my cooldown here just to make sure I can get in there with Bone Storm. There we go. We approach the double pillar room here. We're just going to cross this. As you can see, everything dies. I don't even need, like, look at this. Everything is dead behind me. Didn't even need to do anything. Just had to run through it. There we go. Juicy room. We're going to Bone Storm here. We're going to get in the middle of it. We're going to Tendrils if we can. There we go. We're going to Blood Mist, and everything just melts into a pool of blood. And then we can single target some leftover with Sever. There we go. And we're going to get our loot, obviously. Get the loot. Get the Ancestral. Get the box, and let's head over back to the door. So just very, very fun build overall. The damage is almost AFK, but you still have to think about how you're using your utility. So you still have to think about Bone Storm and Mist, like, to run through packs like this. Look at them. They're just melting down. There's nothing stopping me. When I come back here, they're all going to be dead, by the way. They're all going to be dead. Even though I'm, like, kind of leaving them, they're all going to be dead. I'm just going to jump in here. I have Bone Storm. And at the end of Bone Storm here, I have even a Blood Mist, which is going to defend myself as well from the explosion here. We're just going to single target these guys. Sever with this build is definitely like, it's not guaranteed to hit hard, right? You have to have your multiplier active, and that's Flesh Eater, 40% damage. And that is also going to be, our Shadowblight modifier. So those two things will make Sever hit extremely hard after a Corpse Tendril, right? So if you have those two modifier and you have Corpse Tendril, then it's just GG. It's just over. You just start, like, critting for half a mil up to a mil with Sever. At this gear level with this low modifier, it is really, really good. So it's pretty fun. There we go. We just run around. We just have fun while everything melts. And we just run to our next destination. Also, the damage reduction from Decrepify is nice. Makes us really, really tanky. There we go. Let's run all the way down. Bosses are a little bit of a problem right now, but once I get the Sever unique, I think this will be fixed a little bit. One of the main issues is starting to ramp up the whole Shadowblight ticking. Obviously, because you cannot guarantee a damage over time ability to be casted right underneath the boss, it ramps up very slowly. But once we get the boots, all you have to do is one Sever, and there's already damage over time underneath the boss. With the current build, the only thing you can do is try to generate a corpse, but then your gem is going to consume it with tendrils, which means you still don't have any shadow damage, which you need to apply with Blood Mist. So Blood Mist is going to guarantee a couple of puddle, which is going to start ramping up your Shadowblight. Bosses are still going well. It's just going to go even better once we get all the tools, right? So, as you can see, we're going to start trying to apply a little bit of damage here. We're going to start to ramp. We're going to Blood Mist to his new location. Make sure he's always swimming. And there we go. He's going down. So, it works fine. It's obviously not going to be as quick as, like, a Bone Spear. Necromancer. But it still works really well. And I think that when we get the Sever boots, it's just going to get exponentially better. We're going to get Essence cost reduction, which means more Sever. And also more damage over time from the pathing at the end of Sever. So, my glyphs are all level 15-ish right now, so I'm missing a lot of modifier. All of these could go all the way up to 21%. I'm still missing Exploit. I'm still missing a ton of level in Paragon board. Obviously, this was just, like a 39? Nothing crazy in terms of difficulty. But you could see that if I use my ability correctly, I'm basically taking no damage. Or I'm getting hit pretty hard, which is why you kind of have to manage a little bit. But that's kind of part of the fun of it. I've been enjoying this build quite a lot. Feel free to try it out. It's a nice transition from the build that I pointed out a couple days ago for the Minion Sever. If you want to go check that out, I'll post a link in the comment as well for leveling 1 to 50. And then you can slowly transition into this full Sever build. I also want to make another guide which is going to transition fully into Minion with no DPS ability. So that should be fun as well. So stay tuned for that. But right now we got the Sever build. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment down below if you've enjoyed it. If you have any question, subscribe to the channel. You can also join me over on Twitch. I'm pretty much streaming every single day on there. If you have any question, just want to watch me play Diablo or another video game, I would be super happy to have you there. That's it for today. See you on Twitch in the chat, in the comment, or maybe in Sanctuary. Have a good day, my friend. Bye-bye.